Hello, my name is Satoshi Nakamoto, and I thought I'd come out here and let everybody know. Now you can stop wondering who it is. It is me. It is I. But in real life, besides that pseudonym that I've been using for a while, my name is Hassan Kareem. That's my real name. You can get it right, not Kareem. But I'm a PhD student here at Howard University. My background is cybersecurity, crypto. Been doing it for a bit of time, and that's it. And pass it on to my other fellow black Satoshis.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Rob Campbell. Oh, okay. Can everybody hear me now? Yeah. Great. Rob Campbell, let's see, background, I'm out of the Intelligence and Department of Defense, naval cryptologist, work with all the three-letter agencies around DC. Space engineering is background as well. I studied space engineering from the reconnaissance side. I'm an adjunct professor, PhD student working in quantum physics and blockchain technology. I created a course, blockchain cybersecurity course, where I teach students how to build the blockchain, how to administer the blockchain, and how to hack the blockchain, and how to protect against the hacking. So that's kind of what I do.
Ooh, Rod, y'all thought it was gonna be light? That's not light, is it? That's heavy duty.
Hi everyone, my name is Olayinka Odenaran. I come to you by way of Rockville, Maryland, originally from Nigeria. My background is actually in compliance. I've been working with registered investment advisory firms in the financial industry for almost 20 years now. And recently I graduated with a master's in cybersecurity policy and management. What I do in the community is I provide information assurance regarding cybersecurity and how to secure your asset as well as your data. I also am the founder of a few Telegram groups. One of them is Blacks in Blockchain Global Group, as well as there's a female group equivalent to that. And then I'm also creating a Black Women Blockchain Council, which I believe is very important to have Black women involved in this new technology. As we've been talking about, it's going to be revolutionary. This is a way to basically build your own future. And I want to make sure that Black women is involved from the very foundation all the way to the top. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Musa Haley. I'm originally from Eritrea. I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I currently run two different companies, among actively two companies. My first company does a lot of work in the IC and DoD and DHS space around security R&D space. My second company is called Revolt Cypher, which is a blockchain company. For the last 5 years, we've been developing solutions in the government space, how blockchain can be used for compliancy and other things. It's an exciting subject. And then at the same time, I've been traveling around the world educating people about blockchain and how it could be used and what's the pros and the cons of blockchain.
Excellent. I just want to make one point. The brother pointed out he wanted to give shots out that this is a very inclusive conference. I'd like to highlight the point that at least two people from a small little tiny country called Eritrea are talking about blockchain here in this room today. I mean, and so that sort of levels the playing field, that at least two, there may be more, but Eritrea, you may not even know where it is. It's so small, and maybe we have more people in Northwest DC than the whole country, but just in Northwest. But the impact that they are having, two of them, feel honored, are here in our presence today. So thank y'all very much. Just highlighting the vision.
That's the beauty of this decentralized community that we're in.
It is. Yeah. It's beautiful. And so we got.
Yeah, because you're down for moderator.
Got you. And so some of those things, I mean, you're looking at me, so I just want to go ahead. All right.
At least doing your PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, that's right. So we just dealt with our wonderful, heavy-hitting panelists. Everybody heard their credentials. You know, we're somewhat I'm sitting amongst the greats by, parlay. I really just parlayed myself up here. Anyway, so one of the things that we wanted to be able to discuss were some of the challenges with decolonizing the borders, specifically trusted identity and immigration. And one of the brothers, I was sitting in the back, and so I didn't get an opportunity to see who that was, but he said KYC, know your customer. And for those who didn't know what KYC was, but anyway, KYC is know your customer. And this discussion is somewhat about that, but it's not necessarily about customers. It's about empowering people to take control of their own identity and use it however they want to use it. You know, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, I want to be anonymous. Yes, there are many people who want to be anonymous, but a lot of people just want to live. They want to be able to get across borders. In fact, Madam Zuma asked Dr. Kuwao, the ambassador, to figure it out. Make sure that we can have the free flow of people across the continent. And so as we consider, and I post this first to you guys, as we consider the treaty for free movement of people in Africa, because there's another one in the European Union, as we consider the treaty for free movement of people, which empowers people to become migratory or nomadic, I want to use that term specifically, there becomes a need for a new class of apps, power for the nomad apps, right? Power for the nomad. We have two new symbols. This one is but power for the nomads. I'm going to cross that symbol. Anyway, and so I thought, since a lot of the discussion so far, and I know they didn't want to go real deep into the tech side, but since a lot of the discussion has been laying down the challenges that we face and the things that we need to do, I think that this discussion can go a little bit deeper into some type of details. And I didn't, ask for, what's the crypto hash or the so on and so forth to get there. But what are some of the features that we need to unveil, or what are some of the features that need to be implemented? And I'm asking those of you who are app developers and currency who said, I have all of the solution in the world, right, me included, but in any case, I won't talk about that. I ask you to take notes about some of the things that we're talking about to ensure that we can have a blockchain that enables what the ambassador was talking about, the free movement of people throughout the continent, but not just throughout the continent, throughout the world. We're nomads. I really am a nomad, and I come from a long line of nomads. From a long line, even Barbados. The brother talked about Barbados. We hit there too, when we got brought over to the country a couple 100 years ago. But in any case, so I want to ask you guys to highlight some of the features, and if you can't think of something, I got some ideas. But what are some must-have features for migratory, to guarantee identity?
So I actually have an active project around identity management in Africa currently. And what we're actually doing is we're working with the government where we're having access to the national identity, driver license, and passport repositories. And we are able to take their biometrics, whether it's fingerprint or iris or something like that, as part of that solution. And now what we're trying to do is, this actually is a great example where in most countries, you have a driver license and you have everything. In some parts of Africa, a lot of people don't have that. But one thing they have in common is they all have mobile devices. And so what we're doing is we're enabling those mobile devices to have an app, a D app, if you want to call it, which can take your QR code, which is tied to your fingerprint or your identity. Every time you go to a bank or every time you go to a hospital, every time you go to the DMV, you will be able to show the QR code, and you will be as part of the KYC side of the house. The other thing that you call it KYC, there's another thing, another term called KYE, which is Know Your Employee. And this is another thing that I just finished writing an article, is going to be published in Europe around birth certificates and employment. I don't know if you guys know this, but in the US, there's 1,200 different birth certificates are issued within the 50 states, plus District of Columbia. So the problem is governments don't know it. In order for you to be able to go from Kenya to Uganda or from Uganda to Tanzania, the government of Uganda or the government of Tanzania needs to have its own repository that stores its own information. So in this case, we're getting into a consortium of repositories that is owned across the African Union. And then you will be able to cross borders because you have the fingerprints and you have the birth certificates already in the system.
Sweet, sweet.
I agree with what he just said. I think in Africa specifically, like he mentioned, everyone has a cell phone, so it needs to be something that can be easily accessible. There's a company out here, actually in America, that's actually dealing with facial recognition. It's called Kairos. They're actually a well-known company that's outside of the whole blockchain, but they've actually started using the blockchain technology to elevate their product. And it's doing wonders because it's easily recognizing our faces, given that we have specific unique facial structures and stuff. So it's actually by a black person that created it, Brian Brackman. And so he's using that to aid in this technology and aid in the whole cross-border issue. But at the same time, we also have to consider how this can become something that's meant for good can also be used for bad.
Come on, come on.
Because even getting your biometrics, we're currently seeing it in China, and where they're actually using facial recognition to put people in certain classes. So we have to be careful of how we use this technology and how we implement the whole process of using the technology and the policies around it, because even though we think it's great and I can cross the border without having a visa, et cetera, but then what if that crooked government comes into place, and next thing you know, they're hindering me from progressing or even moving from certain classes, et cetera, or even making money. So these are the things that we need to start thinking about as well.
Feel you.
Yeah, she brings up a good point. In China, they grade you, score you. I'm sorry. In China, they score you, grade you, they track you everywhere you go through facial recognition, and they give you a credit score based on the things that you do and don't do. For example, if you jaywalk, then it's going to lower your score. And after a while, they'll just come and pick you up if you have a certain score. So from my perspective, of course, I work from the security aspect, and it's not like, I look for weaknesses and strengths in this technology. And I've gone to a lot of conferences. I don't really go very much anymore. I have to be careful about what kind of conferences I go to, because the ones that are hosted by marketing and salespeople, they don't understand the technology. They'll tell you things like it can't be hacked.
Yeah.
Well, they have no understanding of the technology behind it, none. So I don't go to those kind of conferences anymore. So anyway, my focus, again, is strengths and weaknesses. One thing you may have heard of is Estonia. They're one of the first nations out of the block with being a digital nation. They put everything on the blockchain. You can get your driver's license, you can join the armed forces, you can vote, and all of that. And then they discovered, we have a security weakness. And well, it's too late. It's out there. It's on the blockchain. And so they had to scramble to try to fix the problem. But they still don't understand what the problem is. It's deeper than what they understand. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it could be done. I think that the blockchain offers some great opportunities. I'm really behind it in terms of what it can do, the potential, but we have to understand the strengths and weaknesses.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to hold it there. We're going to accommodate 2 questions for the audience, and I'm going to come back and get a closing comment from everyone. A short, concise, powerful, thought-provoking, iconoclastic closing comment from each and everyone. So you got a few moments to get your thoughts together. Get it together. All right. 2 questions. Come on. I was struggling today trying to come up with questions. I see more hands going up. But I don't want the same people, though. I ain't overlooking you, bro. I'm just trying to get a new voice. Okay, we good. Okay.
Hi, have any of you...
I didn't go to the hosting school, so I let you hold the microphone. So I didn't.
Tripping. Can any of you maybe discuss what are the intersections between identity on the blockchain and then identity off the blockchain? Like, have you thought about cloud computing and how that may intersect?
Did you get that question?
Well, he just discussed it, and it was also mentioned. But the point, that's actually what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out what the good and the bad. You know, there is a good side of it, and there's a bad. We often want to point to the boogeyman, wherever the boogeyman is. Today it's China or what have you, but we don't point it at ourselves. And here we have boogeymans that are using software that boogeymen, boogie people, whatever, that boogie feds that are, doing artificial intelligence and trying to, map that, what's on the blockchain with, real life. One of the good things that we have on our favor as people of color is that the algorithms weren't trained on us. They were trained with, their faces, with their and that's a good thing for us, by the way. Their algorithms have not yet learned the ridges in our facial structure or what have you. So, of some of the, and it's coming. It's on its way.
I would say it's a good and bad thing, right. Only because we all remember the issue with the hand blower, that you go into the bathroom and how it cannot recognize our color, our skin color. So, it's a bad thing in that regard, because if we're literally moving towards a future, and it's a blockchain technology future, and, the people that are behind creating a lot of these products and services are not us, then it's going to be difficult for us to be recognized with some of these AIs that they're planning on building and other different projects and technologies that are coming up. So we need to get involved, and I think it's important, but at the same time, like you mentioned, and we all agree, it's just what's being done with that information in the long run. Will it be in the wrong hand, and the big boogeyman, et cetera?
Yeah, howdy again. So for me, identity is very important, because it's actually one of the doorways to financial inclusion, like making money accessible to people. So what projects are you involved in right now that you see as actually scalable and a decentralized approach to sovereign identity, to being able to actually take hold of your identity so you can use it inside of a blockchain implementation or cryptocurrency that has some of the security levels that you might expect or desire about verifying who you are, and also maintaining that account recovery and those other aspects. And you might want to talk about what those things are for those who might not know what I'm talking about.
Do you want to go?
Yeah.
I can't speak for that.
I'll take that. My dissertation is the blockchain cybersecurity, and I'm working on the vulnerabilities and the issues, how to come up with countermeasures. And we do have countermeasures. We have an international call for, as an example, quantum computing. It's here already. The governments have had them for years. It's just classified. But the commercial quantum computers every other day you're hearing about leaps in technology. So what I focus on is the basics, the fundamentals, and that's the private key. So that key, the private key, is what you sign things with. This is how you conduct transactions and that sort of thing. You have to have the private key. So what my dissertation is focused on is the safety of that private key, because you can have smart contracts, any kind of consensus program you want, but if I've got your private key, I'm not concerned. You know, I can do a lot of things with that. And so the entire community, international community, have to move from the current crypto standards. It is not going to work. Quantum computer makes it all vulnerable. It's vulnerable now. It's breakable. All of it's hackable, every bit of it. So we're working on the next generation right now, what to transition to. So that's where my focus is. So I'm not into the currency side of it, but I'm on the safety side, the security side.
So
Okay, we got to go to closing comments quickly.
Let me
and
just
we can-
answer one of your questions. I'm actually currently working on a real estate investment trust syndication. So in the U.S., in order to get into a syndication, you have to have $100,000 to $200,000 to put in for the next 10, 15 years. It has to be hosted. Not everybody has $100,000 sitting in their bank account. So one of the things that we're doing in Africa, actually, one of the projects I'm working on is the government is going to give land for free. The problem is they need to generate about $10 billion to build affordable homes. So what we're actually doing is we are tying the land to a token, not Bitcoin, not Ethereum, not nothing. It's a Bitcoin. It's a coin that's going to be tied to a land. Now, that coin will be sold everywhere in the world. You become an investor. If you have $1,000, you can buy a coin for $1,000. If you have $2, you can buy a coin for $2. When that land is developed and sold, not only do you get your money, but you get interest on that money as well, right? The same scenario, we're actually trying to use it in the US, in the Midwest. You can buy a house for $20,000 for $30,000. If you go to a bank today and ask them to give you a $20,000 loan for a house, they're not going to give it to you because it will cost them more to produce the paper to generate that $20,000 paper, loan to you. So one of the things that are happening is, why can't you become a syndication? Why can't you go with kind of the same concept of crowdfunding, where you have a token, you want to buy a house, you're paying your investors on a monthly basis. So that's some of the things that we're working on.
All right, short closing comments, and hopefully with your information where everyone here is going to follow and support your work. Ladies first.
Thank you. I just think it's very important that we all understand that this is a new technology that we should all be involved in, but also understand, because you're connected to the internet, you're also vulnerable. Don't believe people who say that it cannot be hacked or is impenetrable. The technology itself, for now, it's great. However, it does not mean that you should be lackadaisical when it comes to the data that you're providing or the data that you're storing within the technology and how you secure that information. Take all the precautions you would, like if it was a normal person on the streets and you don't want to get pickpocketed, make sure that you secure your assets and secure your data.
I'm 100% behind this technology. I think it has great potential. I'm a miner. I mine 24/7. I've been mining cryptocurrencies for years. I play with developing smart contracts, all of that stuff. So I'm behind it. I think it has the potential to break some of the problems that I see in terms of like organizations that have a monopoly, like Wall Street and the banks, and so on. And I think it's an opportunity to break that down. I think we saw a lot of resistance from those organizations because they thought it was a threat to them. And I'm glad, they were basically able to get into the mix. They brought a lot of attention to it, but now they're trying to kind of get into the process so they can make money off of it. Wall Street is one of those organizations. So I think it has a lot of potential across many areas: healthcare, identity, cryptocurrency. It could be also very useful in many areas, like logistics, as an example. So I think it's here to stay. I think that it's too late for anyone to try to stop it. I think we're going to adopt and find good uses for it. But I think we have to be kind of smart about how we go forward. We just can't have blinders on. You know, we have to look at it as it is and realize the great potential.
As a nomad myself, I think one of the premier features, and this was the closest I could get to, you know, something powerful, was to give the power to the users when you're developing features for whatever apps that enable migratory capabilities in the continent and throughout the world. If you're going to use it for identity, give the power to the user to be able to assert his or her identity or their identity, and to be able to withdraw that assertion whenever they want. So I give it to you for a limited amount of time, and you don't have access to it for longer than what so basically make it temporal. I believe that those are some critical features, because I might not want you to continue to have my information later, right? So those are the main features that I was thinking about, like how can we help nomadic people, migratory people, people who are moving from country to country, place to place, you know, globalized workers, we're called. I'd like to be able to assert who I am, but only give that to you when you need it.
All right.
And
Closing
that's it.
comments.
So I'm one of those people who don't like Bitcoin. Don't hate me, because there's no asset behind it.
Right.
Don't invest on things that there's no asset behind it. Find something that has tangible asset. Would you go out and buy Amazon if there was no asset behind Amazon, or Apple if there was no asset? This is the same concept. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
I use dollars, but it's a fiat that's guaranteed by a government. So let me explain something to you. In Kenya, $1.6 billion has been invested in Bitcoin today. And this is a pyramid scheme going from Kenya all the way to West Africa. In order for you to get out of that pyramid scheme, you have to bring in people underneath you to get out of it. So people think they're on paper, they're rich, but they're not. Look at what happened 2-3 days ago. The prices were going down. So what do you tell these people?
That is 3 times higher than a year ago?
I think this is a
Okay, this is
discussion for some other time.
Let's not go there. This is an off-site conversation.
Right now.
But we do not worship the almighty dollar here. Okay. All right, give our panel a round of applause.